Welcome back to another video tutorial brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. Today I'm going to be demonstrating crayon etching. We're going to start with a pencil line drawing, just the outlines. You're going to need a black permanent marker, a wide-tipped black permanent marker, a foam brush, or really any brush will do, some carbon black ink, a palette or a bowl to hold the ink, and of course crayons. Alright, so you'll start with a line drawing, a pencil line drawing. Then the next thing you'll do is you'll go over your lines with the permanent marker. Now it's important that you use kind of a thicker marker for this. If you use a thin pen, you're going to run into problems when you start scratching off your patterns with the etching. So it's a good idea to have a thick permanent marker for this. And you want to keep your drawing pretty simple. Your complexity in this image is going to come from the patterns that you put. So keep your drawing simple. Go over all of your outlines with the black marker. Next, you'll take the crayons and you'll start coloring heavily in the entire surface. You'll cover the entire surface with the crayons. And what I mean by heavily, you want to cover up all the little white specks and white spots on the drawing paper with the crayons. You'll also notice that I'm not using any black crayon to color here. That would really be counterproductive. You want to use bright, bold colors for this to work. Cover up all the white spots. Next, you'll take the carbon black ink and put it in your tray, and you'll cover the entire surface. Now, since the ink is water-based, sometimes it has a little bit of difficulty adhering to the surface. Now, this is important. You need to use carbon black ink. Not all black India ink will work. It needs to be carbon black. You need to read that on the label. Now going back to what I was saying before, when you start brushing the ink over the surface of the crayon, sometimes it will bubble up and it'll be hard to stick to the surface. A little trick that I've used before, I'm not using in this video, but is to take a little bit of a chalkboard eraser and put some chalk or pastel on there and kind of lightly cover the surface with the chalk. That'll help the water-based ink adhere to the surface a little bit easier, and you can kind of see where mine's kind of bubbling up a little bit, so I'll just have to put a couple extra coats on there to cover it up completely. So you'll cover the entire surface, you'll let that dry, let it dry completely for a couple hours, and in this case I'm using actually an etching tool to scratch off. But you can use a variety of different things to scratch off your patterns, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm scratching off a repeating pattern. It might be a little hard to see here, but once I get a bigger area covered, you can start to see the patterns emerge. You want to create patterns that take a lot of the ink off and show as much of the color as possible. Now going back to what I was saying, I'm using an etching tool here. You can buy these etching tools, scratch board tools at any art store, or you can use a nail and adhere it to the end of a pencil. That works. Or you can use a razor blade. That works too. Just be careful that you don't cut the paper. Make sure that you create a variety of patterns. Use bright, bold colors. And crayon etching is a wonderful project for students to do. It's a wonderful art-making medium. And here we go. Got a finished little demonstration here. Hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com.